we have a unique opportunity. I've been turning wood for 38 years. And it's really great to see some of you younger folks here, because some of us are getting a little more seasoned than the wood we turn. So tonight we have a really unique opportunity with a live demonstration from Darin Dailey. And in addition to what he's doing with a captured marble Christmas ornament, we'll have a hands-on workshop tomorrow, is that if you get American Woodturner in December, his article is in it about what you're going to see tonight. So this is like a pre-Broadway play right in front of your eyes. So with that, I'll
free
introduce
admission, too. You can't beat that.
Well, yeah, but we paid him $100 million to be here. Oh, sort of.
How much? Really?
Sort of.
That's
In
awesome.
any event, this is a unique opportunity. We're going to have another live demo in January with Emma Cook. And so enjoy. These are the kind of things we intersperse between our other programs. Enjoy. You're on.
All right. Thank you, Ron. So I'm Darin Dailey. I've been turning for about 33 years. I'm pretty much self-taught. When I first started turning, I bought a bottom-of-the-line Sears Craftsman lathe for $100 off of the classified ads. I had no idea how to use it, et cetera, et cetera. That's my history. Tonight I'm going to try to show you as much of this process as I can here. I'm going to talk through other pieces of the process that I have to do with my table saw and gluing and sanding and things like that. So I'm going to start turning, and once I get the turning process is finished, I will go back and start talking through how to prepare the blanks that I'm working with, choosing the wood, et cetera, et cetera. And we'll go through taping the blanks together, gluing the blanks together, and I'm going to get started so I don't run out of time. So what I have in the chuck right here is a blank made out of hard maple, 6 inches long and approximately 2 inches. The faces are 2 inches long. Oh, come on now. These aren't fit. There we go. And I'm going to make a hollow cove that the marble is going to fit into. I'm going to pass around. That's just that's the blank that I'm working with, basically. It's 4 pieces of wood taped together with strapping tape. This is the goal of what I am working towards right here. I got a glass marble with the cove, and this is a little template that I've made, and you hold that marble right at the corner, and you put the template on it, and you'll see that that marble can pass through that space without touching, or so that that template rests evenly on the corner of the blank. So I like to start this process with the lathe spinning pretty fast so that I don't chip out the corners. You'll notice there's 2 pencil lines. You can see them as it's spinning. I want to stay within those 2 lines because that is the diameter size of the marble. And I want that marble to fit between those diameter lines. I start in the center of the space between those lines. I'm using a 1/2 inch spindle gouge. As I go deeper, I also go wider. With these ornaments, you got to take light cuts, and you have to be careful of the corners because they hurt when they hit your knuckles. You know, when I cut on this side, on the left side, your right side, I'm rolling the chisel over on its side, riding the bevel against these corners, and as I push it forward, I'm rolling it open so that the blade is opening up towards the center. It's important to roll it over onto its side when you're out at the corners of the blank. And I like to stop fairly often to check the measurements. These marbles, I'm sorry? No, they're not. He asked if all the marbles were the same size. They are all sold as the same size I get them from Moon Marble Company. They call them jumbos. They are 1 3/8 inches or 35 millimeters. However, they vary in size. And they're also not perfectly spherical. They're just not perfect the way you would hope them to be. I struggled with getting these things to fit for a long time. And I was making the opening too big or too small. And finally, I realized they're 1 3/8 inches. I have a 1 3/8 inch Forstner bit. So I took a piece of 1/4 inch wood, drill a hole through it with my Forstner bit, and I passed the marble through it. This one fits pretty good. Some of them, there's a lot more wiggle room than this. Some of them will not pass through at all, in which case I know that I have to make these two marks a little bigger than 1 3/8 inches apart. If it's smaller than that, I still make the same distance, but I cut it a little bit smaller. Then I take another piece that I've cut the hole through, drilled the hole through. Before I drill the hole, I scribe a line on the piece of wood. I put the point of the Forstner bit right on that line, drill the hole through. Then I cut it in half, following one side of that line. And I throw away the half that the kerf was on. Does that make sense? And then I keep the other half, which is exactly half of the marble. And that's what I use for the template that's going around right now. It looks like a little arch there. And you hold that arch right on top of this corner of the blank. Right here. And you put it over top of the marble. And wow. This is almost perfect. I cannot believe it. The turning gods are smiling upon me. I'm going to clean it up a little bit, but the depth is perfect. The arch on one side is it's not symmetrical with the other side. I like to get it real symmetrical, because when you take it apart, glue it together, if one side is off from the other, you notice it. You don't notice it so much until you get to, yes?
How big was your block you started with?
The original is a 2x2 by 6 inch block. I use hard maple. For me, I have found that to be the best type of wood so far for this type of project. I have worked with cherry also. That's pretty good. I've worked with black walnut also. It's okay too, but you don't want knots in it. You want straight grain, hard wood that turns and sands well. Absolutely. Okay. I'm going to clean this up with something called a drop nose scraper that was introduced to me by a turner down in Virginia Beach named Myron Curtis. You guys probably have heard of him, or some of you have. This is a 3/8 inch piece of high-speed steel that I got from Amazon. And can you zoom in on the top of this, or a top shot? You basically take the take the bar. You guys are probably going to have to come up and look at it during a break. There we go. Anyway, I grind down the top of it a little bit, and then I just grind it like a scraper, round it. I round off the corners on the bottom. And I can use this unhandled. I'll just bring the...
Can you hold it up one more time?
Sure.
Over your shoulders again.
Okay, good deal.
So you recess it,
And with this one, I ground both ends at slightly different angles. And I just use it unhandled. I can use whichever end that I want to. And they're really cheap and they're useful. I do the same with a 1/4 inch piece of high-speed steel. So here we go. Just going to clean up. So with you folks that are doing the workshop tomorrow, we'll talk a little more about the importance of symmetry. And it's kind of tricky to achieve that. Sometimes I'm like, yeah, that looks good. That looks good. I take it off, I untape it, glue it together, and I'm like, oh no, it's not symmetrical. And then you just work with it. You try to massage it, and they turn out okay still, but they're not, the perfection that you want.
Put it back together and return it.
No, because once you take it apart and you try to remount it again, you're going to have wobbles, and it's just not going to go back the way you want it to. So for me, it's better to move forward. Yes, sir.
So why not make a template that you can test the template will be perfect, you can test it, right?
Yes. I mean, actually, the marble itself is a template. And it's pretty good. I mean, I can see light passing through between the wood and the marble. And there's a little bit of light, a little more passing through on one side than on the other. But it's passable. And also, at this point, I'm going to be cutting away more wood, which I'm going to talk about right now. So, for me, the object, what I've discovered is you want more light to hit the marble. And if it's in a tight spot that not much light can get to, you don't get as beautiful of an effect of having the marble in there. So I turn the lathe on, bring the speed down pretty slow. It's still spinning. And I take a pencil and I mark a line, hopefully in the center, right there. You do not want to cut that line away. You leave that pencil line there, and then when you're ready to, you sand that line away. Because the wood underneath that line is going to support the marble in the center. I want to make 2 more lines that I forgot about. So now I'm cutting away the wood that is between the outside line and the pencil line, and between this outside line and the pencil line. And you don't want to go too deep, or you're going to hit the center of this blank, and it's going to break all apart because the blank has got to cut all the way through the center. So here we go. This is to open up the center of the cage so that more light can hit the marble. Ah. I hesitated to do that, to switch hands, because I'm not really ambidextrous on the lathe. But it's good to force yourself to do that every once in a while. And, you know, when I get to the point where I'm happy with it, but it needs a little more shaved off, I'm actually using the tip of the spindle gouge as a scraper rather than a cutter, just to take off just a little bit. So,
I got a question for you, sir.
yes.
Why did you use the scraper to clean it out and then cut more out of it?
I don't really know. You know, when I'm working in the moment, I'm like, I'll see like, oh, I just need to take a little more off, and I take more off, but I'm looking at this one side, and then I'll look over to the other side, and I'm like, oh, I need to do more on that side first. So I just kind of go back and forth. I'm not I'm not an expert wood turner, you know, like some of these production guys that you see online. And I fly by the seat of my pants a little bit with my technique. But I'm safe when I do it. So I'm not rigid in my, okay, this is 3 cuts for this thing, and then I've got 2 cuts over there. I'm like all over the place, if that makes sense. I mean, hopefully some of you can relate to that and are like, God, where did we get this guy from? You know. So this is really good. Like the fit seems very good to me. Yeah. And I can tell that this marble is not, it's not symmetrical also, because the fit right here, when the marble is configured that way, it doesn't work. But if I spin it just a little bit, there's the fit. It fits in. Does that make sense? Yep. So it's a little thicker on one diameter as opposed to like going that way. Now sometimes you'll take them off the lathe and you'll put them together and you test the marble in there and you can't make it fit no matter what. It's like something happened. And I'm like, what happened? I don't know what happened. Maybe I sanded something away that allowed them to come too close. When that happens, I go and try to find a smaller marble. If I can't find a smaller marble, I'll glue 2 pieces together, and I'll take the smallest one I've got, and I'll put each pair of pieces face up flat on the table, and I'll press that marble into that cove, and I'll press down on it and spin it. And that will burnish the contact points where the glass is hitting the wood. And you'll be able to see there's some little shiny points. It's going to be, let's see, 1, 2, I think it's going to be 4 points on each of those. And you take a Dremel or a knife and you scrape those shiny points away. And you test the fit again. If it still doesn't fit, you do that again. You burnish it again 2 or 3 times until it fits. It's a pain in the you-know-what, but it's better than abandoning the whole project. So I'm pretty happy with this. The only thing that I would do is sand it down to 600 or 800 or 1,000 grit, and then I apply wax to the inside of it. This is my wax of choice. It is Renaissance wax. It is, well, this was $39.99 for 200 mils. And I can do hundreds of projects with this little can. It's easy on, buffs off easy. You get a nice little sheen. I don't have to worry about, like, if I used to do like a spray lacquer on these, but I was putting tape all over the marble on the inside. Like, I got to cover it with tape. And then I got to peel the tape off because I didn't want the spray lacquer on. It's like, boy, this is a lot of work. This is a lot easier and faster. I'll go ahead and pass this around. You'll notice on one corner there is a catch all the way around here that you guys probably saw happen when I did the ambidextrous thing, which I'm not real good at. I'm not worried about that catch because it's going to be hidden by the marble. It's inside where going to be inside where those 4 corners meet. It's not going to be real noticeable once you get that marble sealed in there. So yeah, at this point, I would continue sanding. Then I would apply wax by hand with a rag, being careful not to put the wax on these flat surfaces here. Why? Because I'm going to glue it together, and the wax will not allow the glue to adhere. Oops.
Touch base a little bit on how you're holding that in the chuck.
Absolutely. This is a Nova chuck, and I took the jaws of the chuck off. what's holding this is 4 rubber pins from a set of cold jaws. And they screw directly into the holes that the bolts go into to hold the jaws on. And you just need to find the right size chuck and choose the holes that are the proper, there's 2 choices here. I think when I first put these pins in, it's like, oh, made the wrong choice. They won't open up far enough to grip. And you can also, and I did this for many years with these ornaments, just do it between centers with a spur center and a cup with a pin in it. When you mount it on the lathe using a spur center, which is what I'm going to be using for the second part of this, I take a sharp awl and I put a hole precisely in the center here where the 4 sides intersect. I put it in deep and I roll it around because the grain of the wood, you're going to hit some soft grain, some hard grain. The hard grain is going to want to push the awl over to the soft grain, and that's going to uncenter what you want. You want it right in the center as close as you can get. And you also want this hole a little bit deep because as this pin here, and if you're using pins at both ends, there's a pin in the spur center, as you push those in, it's going to want to push these out. So if you put a little deep, it'll bottom out before it starts pushing. So you push it in a little deep, and you widen the top of the hole by rolling that all around. Make sense, everybody? Okay. All right, I'm going to go ahead and pass this one around. You guys have seen something like that before already. Yes?
Question, maybe I don't understand yet. Are you gonna be using the part that's taped, or is that gonna be eventually discarded?
The tape is going to be discarded. After I sand and wax that, I'll take the tape off of the ends. You'll notice on this blank that one end has some pencil markings on it. Actually, I was going to get to that later, but I'll do it now. The pencil markings are designed to help you realign the blank in the original position that the wood was in so that your grain lines match up again, just as if it was a solid piece of wood. Does that make sense? The grain lines should match up when you glue it back together.
The question is, are you gonna be using this part?
Yes.
Okay, all right.
Like the
I
final,
was wondering why you even bothered holding it like that as opposed to just grabbing it. You were treating it gingerly.
yeah, the reason I do that is because if you use the metal jaws, it's going to damage the wood a little bit.
But you're gonna use that part then?
Yeah. I mean, like the final ornaments
Okay,
are just under 6 inches long.
got it.
So there would be damage at the seams, possibly.
Okay, thank you.
Uh-huh. That's a good question. I didn't quite understand it when you first asked. All right, Darin. There we go. Okay, so now we're switching to an ornament that has the marble sealed inside. I'm going to poke the holes in the end like I just talked about. How's everybody doing? Do we need a bathroom break? Beer break? No? He does. No. Yes.
I know you use the tape to hold it together, but you use the ones with the wood ones, where you make a round, like a tenon that goes in each other, and then they just fit, all square pieces fit into the round.
I have not done that because I'm not so technically inclined. To me, I'm like, I want to make this fast. I want to, finish it in a day. And I'm not real good at taking the time to create homemade chucks and things like that. I came up with the cold jaw pin idea. I was like, yes, I love it, because I can just do that. And I know there's people out there that are probably making jigs for the tailstock end as well. And that would be a good thing because you don't have to worry about pressing the end apart with the pin in the live center, that kind of thing. I think it would make it more precise. But I've, found ways to work around that using the tape. And you, by the way, if you do attempt this, you do want to use, it's called monofilament strapping tape. And you can find it on Amazon pretty cheap, like 3 rolls for, I don't know, $12 or $15. Yes, I'm sorry.
Follow-up question to the one that was just before us. Did I understand this question right? Instead of making it 6 inches, if you would have started off with an 8-inch block, you could have grabbed it different? Is that the gist of the question?
No.
Okay, sorry, Terry, but that was
That's
the word.
That's all right.
No, I've seen them where they make like a round tenon, and then inside the round piece is a square to match your.
She's making a jig.
Your ornament.
Square jig.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Okay, so on this one, I believe on the last one, I put that recess right about in the center of the blank. This one, it's closer to one end than the other. And I can choose to mount this on the...
That's glued now, right?
Yes, this is glued. And we'll talk about the gluing process once I'm done, doing all the turning. Yes.
So what harm is it if you're, when you route that out first, that you have a little bit extra? That marble's rattling around, does that cause problems to it?
Not too terribly much. Gosh, I remember I made an ornament with a marble larger than this one. It was close to 2 inches in diameter. And at the point that I made it, I was not very good at making these. Somehow, I completed that ornament without it just flying apart on me. But that marble was in there just doing an Irish jig triple time, it was just, and I was like, oh God, what's going to happen? And it didn't do anything because it is contained a little bit. But if it has too much room, it can break out. I actually wound up giving that ornament to a little girl at a craft fair because I had it for such a long time, and she zeroed in on it. And she's like, wow, this is really cool. I really like this. And I was like, Darin, you're never going to sell this. Give it to her, So, yeah, that's a cute little story. Anyway, so with this, I can mount it either this way or this way. I always make the top of the ornament at the tailstock because I use that little hole up there to screw the pin into. So if I want to do it, so this is an ornament where I had it down here. If I have it like this, it's going to be more like, I don't know, maybe this one here, if that makes sense. The marbles, that's more in the center. I don't really know if I have any at the top. This one's, yeah, that one's closer to the top of the ornament. So you can, when you make these, you can either put them in the center or put them towards one end or the other. And it affects your design, and just something to think about. I am going to go ahead and do it like this. So I'm mounting this now between centers with spur center at the headstock. I'm tightening it in pretty good. And you want to be careful when you're tightening it in because the center place is weak. If the marble is snug in there, that marble is supporting the weakness quite a bit. Make sense? If you got a lot of wiggle room there, not so much. You got to be real careful when you tighten it in. And you want to tighten it just so it's the spur is digging in enough. I've been thinking about buying myself a steb center. I think that would probably be a safer way to go with something like this. But so far I've been too cheap to do it. I think I'll come around to doing that at some point. Once it's tightened in, back it off, and then snug it up. Yes? Okay. I did not bring a rough and gouge because I can do everything with the spindle gouge, but a lot of times I will use a rough and gouge to take down the ends of the, this just takes a little longer, but it's not that bad. Always start at the end, work my way towards the center. So there's something I forgot to do that I'm going to do right now. This is kind of a wide bead on this that I made on the interior of the cage. I'm going to put a pencil line pretty much at the center of that bead. And that's going to be a reference point for me.
At this point, do you know which one of the styles you're gonna use?
No,
You don't know this yet?
no.
Okay.
My style of turning is it's organic. It happens as it happens. If I make a mistake and I get a gouge in the wood, I'm like, I gotta cut that away. And then I balance it somewhere else. To me, it's almost like a God-driven process, like God's up there saying, no, that's not gonna look good. And he forces me to adjust. And, keeps me limber a little bit. I have to trust God. Sometimes. Again, with this, it's kind of like the higher the speed, the better. Because if it's turning too slow, you're working with corners that you don't want to chip off. It's harder to chip them if it's moving really fast. You can only push the tool in so far before it hits that next corner. Does that make sense? Okay. So I take away a good amount of wood on the ends. If you'll notice, looking at the camera, or if you're close enough to my work here, you can see the interior anatomy of the cage right now. You can see exactly where the marble is. You can see how thick those walls are. Good lighting helps with that, and keeping your glasses clean, etc. I like to anchor my tool to the tool rest. I will hold it with my thumb and my middle finger, and I wrap my index finger under the tool rest. And that just kind of keeps me anchored and keeps me from moving too quick. Just a little tip in case anybody wants to try that, or maybe you already know that technique. Okay, so I'm almost to the point where I'm going to start working on the cage. Now, at this point, the blank is still pretty strong. There's still quite a lot of mass at both ends. I haven't removed very much of the cage, so it's still fairly solid. As I start working on the cage, it's going to start getting weaker and weaker and more delicate. That's why I backed off on the tailstock and just snugged it up. You have to be aware of that as you're cutting things away. If you're heavy-handed, I taught a workshop with a couple of guys, and one of them was really heavy-handed, and I couldn't convey to him effectively that he needed to take light cuts and small cuts and shave the wood off. He was like pushing into it, and his ornament blew apart. So just keep that in mind when you're doing something like this. Now it's fairly thin right there where I was working. It's kind of, it's not showing up as well on the monitors as what I can see is happening. But when you're looking at this, it's kind of important to pay attention to the shadows as well as the light parts, because the shadows can tell you a lot about what's happening with your tool and where it's cutting away. So I'll work on one end of the cage and then the other. I'm trying to follow the contours of the interior portion of the cage, trying to parallel the cut with those interior contours. And when I get down towards either end of the cage, I like to leave a little bit of extra wood in the form of a small kind of stair-step layer of wood, which is what I'm doing right here. And then I might add a second one below that, right about there. I got to even this up. Try to do that symmetry thing. A lot of times I'm looking not just at the cut, but I'll shift my eyes up to the horizon of the ornament to see what, it helps me see what's actually happening with the cut. So I'm pretty pleased with it so far. I'm going to take this bead down a little finer, give it more of a refined shape. One of the things that I wrote about in the article, the phrases I used is less is more. When there's less wood left, it gives your ornament more negative space to interact with. If there's more wood, it becomes more chunky looking. When we do the workshop tomorrow, I'm going to encourage people to do the opposite of that, because what we're going to be trying to achieve is success in actually completing an ornament safely and it not blowing apart on you. You want to get your skills down and have a success, and then you can go home and put these practices into use at home, and you're going to have failures. I've had failures with these, lots of them, and lots of F-bombs flying out of my shop. Because the point where you're going to have the failure is when you're 5% away from completion, and you've spent 4 hours on this stinking little ornament, and it's gone, you know, and you're like, ah! So for, to achieve some of these ornaments that I've done, it takes practice, and you want to get the success down and get the basics and learn how to do things precisely in preparing the blank. All of those little details in preparing and gluing the blank really is what makes it look really good in the end. It's not just the turning process. It's building that blank properly and mounting it properly and gluing it so that the pieces don't slide as you put the clamps on. And then you notice once it's dry, it's like 1/8 of an inch off. And at that point, it's, you're not going to have a perfect piece. So I'm going to go ahead and refine this a little bit. But those of you that come to the workshop tomorrow, I'm going to encourage you to not refine it as much, especially if your skill level is not, if you're shaky in skills. And, I'm shaky in skills sometimes too. So enough said on that. I'm going to go ahead and keep this going. Okay, I'm switching over to a skew now for a little while. And you might be able to hear a little bit of chatter starting now, a little bit of vibration because the wood is getting weaker and thinner. All right. So just kind of refining the shape, and this is kind of part of my organic process that I was talking about. I'm coming up with these shapes on the fly and just putting different things together. And if I stand back and I'm like, that doesn't really work, I'll cut something away, or I'll reduce a diameter a little bit, or I'll reduce the size of one of these stair-stepping levels. And you know, I try to keep like the top and part of the cage kind of mirroring each other as much as possible. But you don't have to do that, you know. Come up with your own style, or, you know. Oh. So I feel like this part here is a little too chunky for me. I want it to be more slender and graceful. So I'll just reduce that diameter down. And when you do that, it will give the illusion that this has actually gotten longer.
That's the bottom, the head side is the bottom?
Yes.
Here's a question,
Yes. Yes, I believe so, pretty much. I think I'm actually going to stop on this portion of this particular one, and we'll pass it around. What I would do next is sand the whole thing with, you know, starting at like 220 or 320, and take it all the way up to 600 or 800 or 1,000 or sometimes 1,200. And then I burnish it with a cloth. There are some pencil lines here, and I have you can sand them off by hand, or I have a random orbit sander that I'll, you know, lightly put down on top of it and sand those away. And once it's all sanded and burnished with like a clean, soft cotton cloth, that gives it a little bit of shine itself, and it wipes away the sawdust from the sanding. You want to blow out the interior because there's going to be a lot of sawdust inside. And then I will get it down to, I'll put the wax on. This one is nearly completed. It's been sanded and waxed. Honestly, I didn't do a real good job gluing this one up because you can see the seams. I was using, I think I used CA glue because I was trying to see if CA would hold for the workshop tomorrow. Usually I just use tight bond wood glue, but I let the glue dry, for several hours, which we won't have that luxury tomorrow. But I did discover that I'm not comfortable with CA glue because one of them blew apart on me. So I found a quick setting tight bond that seems to work. We're going to have to give it like at least a half an hour for the first portion of gluing, and then another 45 minutes to an hour for the second portion of gluing. And that one did hold for me. So I'm going to go ahead and pass this one around. You can see some tool marks on the cage. I would probably clean those up, and they actually sand away pretty easily with the 220, 240, and then you just, keep moving up to finer grades of the grit. But I'm fairly pleased with this. I mean, some of the cuts are not as clean, but if I was at home in my workshop, I'd be paying more attention to it. But we're on a time limit, and I know, there's 3 or 4 guys over here dozing off, so. Yes?
The marble is actually stationary, is that right?
That one is it's a good fit. You might be able to spin it a little bit. Some of them, it's going to wiggle a little bit because the fit isn't quite right, and it's okay. If it wiggles a little bit, it doesn't have enough momentum or mass to break out of that cage. Yes, yeah. Some of these samples that I've brought, examples of those, it'll rattle. You can pick it up and see it moving in there. And even that, that one that I told you about, it was a big Mambo marble, and it was in there. I was like, is this going to hit my tool, as I'm turning? But it didn't, it was contained in that cage by, divine intervention or something. So next, I am going to pass this. No, you know what? I'm going to apply some wax, show you how I do that. So this one has been turned and sanded, and it's ready for the wax. And I think first thing I'm going to do is go ahead and burnish it a little bit. You don't want to press against this too hard, it'll snap in half. And you got to be careful with your fingers around the cage. So around the cage, I apply it.
Is that marble really free in there? Because I see a lot of airspace.
I can spin it. It's not really, it's pretty firmly seated between the two ends. But yes, I can, let's see if I can.
Because it's not hitting at the center.
No, it is not. The little beads here, the ridge and beads, are not touching that marble. But they are providing a little bit of strength for the cage right there at the center portion. And these little stair-stepping ridges at both ends provide some additional strength for the cage. So if you get the ends of the cage too thin, that's all end grain on either ends. And, you know, end grain, you guys have probably heard the analogy that it's like straws that are bundled together. And if those straws, you can imagine they're cut really short, and that would be if the end of the cage was too short. And I've had this happen where this finial here pulled right out of the cage because the straws were so short, there was not enough strength to hold that finial on. It just pulled out, and there was a little nub there. I was able to stick it back in and just drop a CA glue in there, but you know, it was a wake-up call for me. It's like, you got to leave some more mass there for that finial to hold on to. Yes?
So for this particular one, you said that at the center, those ribs are not holding the marble, but it is touching at the front and back.
Yes, it's the top
Is
ends.
that the plan that the top and bottom show where you touch, but not necessarily the center? Is that
Yeah,
the plan?
that's something to go for. And at the top, there are, I think, it could be 8 points. It's either 4 or 8 points at the top and the bottom that are holding it.
Have you ever done an ornament with, instead of a single cage, doing two cages? With like a larger and a smaller marble?
I have, but not with 2 marbles. This one,
This is the same.
this one is sort of has two cages, but not really. I extended that
Yeah.
cage up.
Oh, you
But
can-
I have done two cages, like a smaller one
Yeah.
and a larger one with the marble in the
Yeah.
larger one. Or I think I've done 3 with no marble at all. You know, 2 small, top, bottom, and a big one in the middle. You know, there's all kinds of things you can do.
Yeah.
Okay, the wax, I'll apply to the cage by hand while it's not spinning, because I don't really want to get wax inside the cage, which is pretty easy to do. Just dab it on, dab and wipe. Yep, see, I got it inside the cage, but it's not a huge problem. I got too much wax on the cloth. I'm probably covering up how I'm doing this for the camera, but
Question,
yes.
what's the difference between your Renaissance wax and say something like
Oh.
bowling alley wax or just hard Johnson's wax you get in a big can?
I do not know. I know that Renaissance wax, they call it a microcrystalline wax, and it was developed to preserve artwork, antiques, all kinds of things. It's actually, you know, developed chemically and to actually sink in and protect things like art, wood art, all kinds of stuff they use it on.
It's easily removed if you know how to remove it.
Is it?
I think that was part of it when they developed it. They're using it on antiques, and they said, well, if somebody 50 years later comes up with something better, they want to be able to get this off.
I see.
That's what I've read. I don't
Right. Well, that makes two of us. I don't know either. I like it because it's so quick and so easy, and you do get a little bit of a sheen off of it. It's important, I have found, to make sure that you do wipe off any loose sawdust and give it a little burnish with the cloth. That helps give it a better sheen when you put it on. Okay,
It also doesn't yellow the wood as much as a
Right.
petroleum wax
okay,
will.
that's good to know. Okay, so now, I'm applying the wax to the finial.
Is that just a paper towel, or what are you using?
It's just one of those blue shop towels that, all right. Okay, so now turn the speed up. Just take a cotton cloth, wipe it off, burnish it up a little bit.
So it's basically a friction polish.
Kind of. I think a friction polish is going to be thicker, like a friction polish. And you can use a friction polish also on these, I think, but you're supposed to press on the friction polish for it to cure with the heat, and you can't really press that hard on these because they'll break.
But the friction is basically the heat,
Yeah, but
putting the wax skin into the wood.
yeah, but you got to press against it to create that heat. I guess you could turn it up really high and not press, it's like a fine line, a little balance of how much pressure to give it. All right, so we'll pass this one around too. And then this is the last piece. It's been sanded, waxed, and now I'm going to finish it up by finishing the shape on the ends and parting off here. And then I'll sand the end a little bit and apply wax to that also. And then we'll be done. How are we doing on time? Yeah?
About 12, 14 minutes.
Okay. Yeehaw.
You mentioned matching grain. Do you cut, and I see it matching there, you cut your blanks out of one piece of wood in
Yes.
3x3 and
Yeah, it's 2 by 2, 6 inches long. Slice it down the middle both ways. And before I slice it, I put marks on one end to help me realign the grain, because if you don't do that, it's like, oh my gosh, I can't figure out how this grain aligns. Okay. Yeah, which one am I? I forgot all about the slides. Yeah, yeah. Okay, so right there, okay, those are the blanks on the screen there that have been cut, and you can see the marks on the ends of the blanks. I put a little arc on the corner, on all four corners, and I put 3 lines, diagonal lines across it. And in the next slide, those are the same blanks, and I've turned the outside corners to the inside and vice versa. So those 4 arcs make a little circle in the center. And that's the configuration that you want the blanks to be in when you turn that original cove that the marble is going to be in. And then once you've got that cove turned and you're satisfied with it, you untape these blanks because they're taped together right now, and you flip them around and you glue them together in that original configuration with the arcs on the outside corners and the lines matching up with each other. And that will give you the matching grain as close as possible to being matching, because you've still got that missing kerf in there from your cut. But yeah, so that's how you do it. All right. Yeah, I do it on my table saw. I use a Diablo blade that's sharp, and you've got to adjust your fence so it's perfectly aligned with your blade, and all 4 pieces have to be exactly the same dimensions on all 4 sides, exactly 90 degrees, as close as you can get. It take a long time to set up your saw for cutting it, and just be sure that you got it right. What else? Sharp blade, make sure it's sharp. Fence is straight up and down, not leaning one way or the other. Perfectly parallel to the blade. That's the area where I struggle the most, is cutting the blanks on this. And there's a lot of cursing that happens in my shop those days. Like, why? And it's probably because my table saw isn't all that great. But it can be done. You got to figure it out. And, I think I tend to rush through things sometimes and think that I've got it right, and it's not right. Was there a question back there? No? Okay. I'm going to attempt to get this done in the next few minutes, and we can recess. So I'm going to take this end down right to that pin. Okay. Yeah, I know. So what happened there is there's a little too much room in that hole where the pin is. I got to snug it up just a little, and the spur center became disengaged because it had room to scoot towards the tailstock. This could be a little dicey, we'll see. I'll keep. What's that?
I'll catch it.
Okay. You catch the wood, you catch the marble over here, okay? So far, it's holding well. Yes,
I don't want to distract you because this is critical. Was this already been waxed once?
yes, I've already put the wax, sanded it and put the waxed on.
Now you're cutting it off again?
Yes, I'm actually parting off this end. I'm gonna,
You're gonna have to re-wax
I'm
it.
gonna have to resand it by hand and apply wax by hand and kind of buff and burnish it by hand. Okay, I'm gonna do a little sanding with it on the, well, maybe I am. I don't know where my sandpaper is. Well, maybe not. I'll sand it by hand later after the show's over and I'll just go ahead and part it off. So what I do to part it off, I take it down to about a 1/16 of an inch or less. That's pretty good. And you cannot press against, your cut has to go parallel to the wood. You can't press into the wood. You're just shaving a little at a time off. Okay, and I'm going to put a little score there with the point of the skew. Just to weaken it a little bit more. And we're safe now. Take it off and you snap that button off. It's a real gentle snap off. If I had sandpaper, I know I have it somewhere, I would sand this down to a point, wrap it around, sand it, sand it, sand it, sand it, sand it. Take some wax, apply it to the end, wipe it off, burnish, burnish, burnish. Same with this end because I did some cutting on this end. Sand, sand, sand. Wipe sawdust off, wax, burnish. And then I have these little tiny 3mm screw eyes. Amazon, pack of 500 for, I don't know, maybe $5 or something. This will last me for a decade or so. Yes.
How much you sell them for?
At this point, it's 85 to 125. I have some loose plans to start embellishing them with like some carving, maybe drilling some additional holes through the cage to let more light in, maybe some wood burning, you know, just dress them up and give them a little more of a factor, like, yeah, you can't buy these in Bloomingdale's, you know. But yeah, they're pricey, but I put a lot of time into these. And, you know, most people, you know, oh, wow, they're really nice. And they walk away, you know, they look at the price tag. And then other people, they'll walk into my booth and they're like, I want 3 of those. And they don't care, you know. It's like some people have the money and some people can appreciate them. I couldn't afford to buy my work, so I don't hold it against them if they don't want to buy it, you know. It's like that's how it goes. I'm not a professional turner, but the hobby for me has more than paid for itself, and I'm able to upgrade my tools and buy new tools and just have a good time. Keeps me out of the bars and jail and stuff like that, you know. So it's a lot of fun. I mean, I was addicted to turning immediately when I bought that really, really low quality lathe 30-some years ago. I was like, I love this, but I cussed a lot because I had no idea what I was doing. Are there any other questions or observations or criticisms? I don't know. Thank you.